the longer that people stay in their corners and just fight over something for no reason, the longer or the more opportunity we have for people to lose their lives to gun violence.
Yeah.
And so, we're not doing anybody any favors by continuing to argue over, ridiculous things when we should be focusing on how to actually solve the problem.
Yeah, I agree with you, actually. I completely agree with Brandon.
Hey.
All right, let's end the show.
Welcome to the Concerned Citizens, not the Concerned Citizens, but Concerned Citizens, where we are empowering the people, igniting change. We finally got a tagline.
Yeah,
that's right.
Making some moves, baby.
New stuff for episode 4.
It's like, wait a couple more episodes. We're gonna have some serious production quality and everything.
It might actually look like something.
It's like just add one little tweak every show, just one little thing.
Love it.
All right. Once again, we'll give each of us an opportunity to introduce ourselves. Once again, I'm BJ Hall. I should have passed the ball first. I'm hogging it. Pass it down to you, sir.
I'm Chris Hill.
And I'm Brandon Russell.
All right. So we're still in the midst of trying to get you all allow you all to get to know us. So we got a quick question. What do you collect? We're going to go in the same order. Chris, what do you collect?
So this time you passed the ball, right? I mean, yeah. Well, I don't really, it's funny, I don't really collect anything now, but when I was younger, I used to collect baseball cards. That was a thing. I still have a ton of them.
Nice.
Actually, I got to see Reggie Jackson inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame years ago. And that year was, that's when I started collecting really hardcore, you know what I mean? So
nice.
I would spend my paychecks on Fridays getting baseball cards. But, all right, real quick, one more thing I used to collect, and obviously I don't anymore, but, and this is showing my age, is I used to collect matchbooks. Did you know that was a thing? I don't know if you guys know that.
Hold on, explain.
Like different bars and stuff.
And it wasn't even
bars. Oh, okay.
Everywhere had matchbooks, like cities and towns, and everywhere had them. I probably had 300 or 400 different ones.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you still have any of them?
Yeah, they're all in a Folgers coffee can. It might be Maxwell House, the blue one, which by the way are not a sponsor yet. But,
but we're open to it.
Right, that's right.
We like matches and coffee.
Matches, coffee, and baseball cards.
All right, Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, well, something I've collected since I was a kid is old money, coins, or paper money, or I also have a random collection of foreign money too. So anytime a friend of my parents went somewhere for travel, they would always bring me back a coin or something. And so I think I don't know what I'd call it, the craziest, the most random piece of money that I have is I have I think it's a $10, well, it's not dollar, but whatever their version is, but it's a $10 bill with Saddam Hussein on it from Iraq.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
So I've been collecting that for years, and anytime I come across something, when I worked in retail, if I came across some kind of random old money or foreign coin I didn't have, I snatched it right up legally. I didn't steal it.
One of the things that I used to collect, and I still do collect, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know. You can't see it that well over my shoulder over here, but you see copies of The Walking Dead, and so graphic novels, comic books. I love comic books. So I'm not a big fan of DC Marvel. I like everything that people didn't like. So a lot of the image was like I just wanted to be different. It's like oh, you got comic books, but have you seen this? So it was always cool to just bring out some random comic books. And of course, everybody did the card thing. um I was in high school. I did something a little strange in high school. I used to collect hall passes. So like we had
Ah.
like these wooden shapes. All of our teachers had I'm not sure if that was legal or not, but at the end of my high school career, I ended up giving back all the hall passes to all my teachers that I collected over.
That's actually pretty funny.
That is.
So it was a good time though. Good to know that I'm not alone collecting weird things. All right, now to the legislation. They put out a lot of bills this year.
Oh yeah.
So in the House, they had 1,683.
Wow.
Just looking at the House bills, we got 1,292. The Senate, 1,344. Just looking at the Senate bills, legislative bills, 967. But I mean, that's still over 2,200 pieces of legislation. Of course,
Wow.
those things get matched.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of redundancy there, but I mean that's still a lot of paperwork to have to go through. So shout out to
Yeah.
the men and women up there doing the good work of the people, chewing through this legislation and trying to make the best decisions possible.
I still say I don't know how they do it. Being real, like there is a lot, man. You went all of we talk about this, and this is for the public right now. Like we're probably, we're pretty informed. We try to stay on different bills, and all three of us. That's what's cool about us. We all follow different bills and different things. But man, those men and women up there, they got a lot to review. I'm telling you.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So you can't take that away from it. As long as they're actually reviewing it, you can't take it away from them.
Yeah, it's funny though. From time to time, I get one or two of them, and I'll ask them about a specific bill, and they don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "It's your bill, though."
I thought you wrote that.
But I definitely have run into a delegate, and I thought that I was trying. This was me trying to have a connection point, and so I throw out the bill. It's like, "Oh yeah, I read it." And gave my little feedback. It's like, "What bill is that?" Yours.
That's too funny. That's good
Just a couple of our hot topics that we like to keep an eye on. In district voting, both of them got stuck in committee, and they had hearings. It was interesting just to see both how one got attention and the other didn't. So I guess it was Delegate Matt Morgan went in and he read his and walked out. Nobody said anything.
Yeah, they moved on pretty quick from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. So hopefully we get some feedback from Ways and Means one sometime here in the next week or so, because I hope I hope they don't just sit on it. It's like at least make a decision, say we like it or we don't. Just last year they just stuck it. Well, a few years ago they just stuck it in a drawer and pretended it wasn't there. But hopefully we can actually get a decision. Even if you say no, that makes me feel better than just sitting on it.
Yeah, and crossover's coming up soon, so they don't have much time.
They don't.
Yeah. The funding bills, it was funny. So the ones for the ones that were broken up, the 41 and the 15, 41 million for almost all of the capital for all of the capital projects not named YMCA. And then there's another bill to cover the YMCA that has a lot of stipulations. The hearing was actually scheduled for today. So got to go back and listen to it. So we can get a little more information on at least the testimony that went on. And then 623, the one that Delegate Crosby put in front of the committee, it was very interesting because he just went up there, read it, and there were no questions asked. They just kept it pushing. That is literally the fastest one. He didn't even, he barely read the summary. He was like, yeah, it's just a bill. My county commissioners, they supported it, so I'm pushing it. And it was like, okay.
It's kind of nice when they all try to work together and get something accomplished. Hopefully it goes through easily.
Well, yeah. I wouldn't call it working together, but
yeah, you're right. You're right. But, so that one, the 623 is the borrowing one. That actually is, I mean, basically the hearing was on the 28th, and it's good to go, right?
I don't think they voted on it yet.
They haven't.
No, it's still in committee.
Still in committee, right?
So it's interesting. Like, if they don't pass one of those, what does that do for us with our capital projects?
Right. So we're gonna be in big trouble.
They can't just put these in a drawer. It's like we need one of these to pass.
Yeah. So, that's interesting. That's a really good conundrum, isn't it? Like, what do we do? They have to approve something at some point, I guess.
Yes, sir. So we'll see.
So if anybody out there listening wants to make sure our capital projects get funded, send a letter to Delegate Ben Barnes, the chair of appropriations, and tell him, hey, we need some movement here.
Roger that. It's like what you do is you highlight all the ones that are connected to kids. It's like, our kids need X. Mm-hmm. It's like that's always the move.
Right.
One of the good things about chasing down some of this legislation, you get to see some interesting things that are not typical. One is actually polling locations at continuing care retirement communities. It was like I think that's one that's supposed to be addressing some of the concerns for ballot harvesting. I'm not sure how much harvesting is actually happening, but it's like, all right, let's pay a lot more money just to make sure that nobody's harvesting votes with some of our seniors. So that's out there. And then there's a nonprofit sustainability fund. And I thought that was actually really interesting, considering that I recently started a nonprofit, and I spent a whole lot of money raising money. I mean, a whole lot of energy raising money to do good work in the community. So if there's a way to at least help us stay afloat while we kind of find our way in the nonprofit world, I mean, that would be a good lifeline to have available to us.
Yeah, we in the county, we rely on a lot of nonprofits for services, so that is definitely one that could be very helpful for us.
Yeah, and I also think that our nonprofits are a better way to utilize that money instead of us creating services through the government. So you can have quicker action, and you have people that are truly connected and passionate about that cause, making those decisions. So it was like, of course, you had that emotion that's attached to it. So you don't necessarily want someone making emotional decisions, but if someone has that passion, then they're putting their energy into the issue to make sure that things are being addressed.
Yeah, I think that's a real good point. Honestly, is like, because nonprofits just really that's the grassroots of change for certain things. I think, you know what I mean. It always is.
Yeah.
It almost inevitably, it's always that. It's a nonprofit group or organization that spearheads some sort of change for the community, or whatever it is. That's pretty cool.
Yes, sir. And I saw one that was kind of funny to me. I didn't go into too much detail and didn't watch the hearing, but Frederick County has a bill up there about electronic tip jar machines. So it's authorizing and regulating. I'm like, I just wanted to know what an electronic tip jar looked like, and what type of establishments have these electronic tip jars. So
when Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you first mentioned this bill, I did a quick lookup on it, and the article of the law that it falls under is criminal law, and it has something to do with state lottery and gaming control, the commission for those things, and so it's a very interesting idea. And I'm with you. I kind of want to know, like, what is this electronic tip jar? How do we? Is it like we're touching our Apple Pay to tip? How does this work?
Right.
I didn't know anything about it until you just brought it up, in our, but I just pulled it. I just did a Google search, and I found the permit application for tip jars in Frederick County, Maryland. Did you know that for a 1-year permit, it's $210?
What? For a tip jar?
Actually, it's $954 for a 1-year permit off premise. I don't know what that means, but boy, it sounds expensive.
Well, how much? They must be
I hope you're getting a lot of tips.
Yeah.
This
isn't your old, pickle jar with a sign on it kind of thing.
That's interesting, because it's this definitely might be something we should look into a little deeper, because one of the fees is $141 for a carnival permit, event not to extend 10 days. So, is this the fireman's boot collection? Is that what this is? It's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I would like to learn more about this myself. And honestly, tomorrow I'm gonna be running into some people from Frederick County, and I plan on asking.
Roger that.
If you find the delegate who put this forward, see if they know what it's about.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and find out what this is.
Yeah, pull out your phone, do a quick interview. It's like, so we wonder about these tip jars. All right. So, not to change the mood, but gun law. Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah. This bill is actually near and dear to the hearts of everyone down here in St. Mary's County. It's HB 307. It's a firearm safety law, and it's called Jaelynn's law. So and she was one of the victims. She's the victim that lost her life in the Great Mills High School shooting a few years back. So still pray for her family, because just saw her mom testify at the hearing, and I mean I can't even imagine how that feels, losing a child in that way, especially publicly. So it's like that just adds to it.
Yeah. Just to put that out there too, our support or lack thereof is in no way intended to be insensitive. You know what I mean? Like, because we are concerned citizens. That's what we're calling ourselves here. So, but just put that out there too.
Yeah, I agree. The interesting part about it is it's broken down into two portions. There's one that talks about storage requirement, and the storage requirement essentially says that you cannot store your firearm with the ammunition. So they have to be stored in two different locations. There's a lot of detail to the requirements for the firearm storage, not so much on the ammunition. Then there's another component that looks at the public health side of gun violence, where it specifically addresses a program that's supposed to help out with youth suicide. So the development of that program, and that's under the Maryland Health Department. There was a long hearing about it. There were 2 hours worth of testimony, and I don't want to hog the ball here. We could throw it around the horn.
Yeah. So just for some kind of background on this bill came up as a different bill number, I think 2 years ago. And at the time, it didn't go anywhere because of some specific language that was in the bill. So there's a part of this bill that reads, I don't know if I can find it now, but it basically, it was whether a minor or a child could or would be able to gain access to a firearm. And originally the bill read if the child could, Then they changed it to if the child would, and now they've changed it to the minor is likely to. And so initially some kind of pushback from legislators on this bill was, how do you decide or regulate or identify when a minor could or would access this, because so many different situations are at play, and so many different things could happen. So I think some tightening up of the language was definitely necessary from the original version of this bill. But I think another important thing to note here is that the law as it reads now refers to the quote child instead of quote the minor. And a child is described, I think, as somebody who is 16 or less or 15 or less. And so this kind of, I guess, closes a loophole, so to speak, for 16 and 17-year-olds by using the word minor instead, so that it covers anyone under the age of 18 years old, which is particularly relevant to what happened with the Great Mills High School shooting. I really, the part of this that I'm super supportive of is the suicide prevention piece of it. I think that the gun law piece can be debated. It has been debated, as BJ said, for 2 hours in the hearing. But I think this bill is worthy of support for the suicide prevention because of the education around that and the requirements that it would place on public health services, and I think maybe even educational institutions to have some kind of rollout of a program that really educates our youth about gun safety and how to, prevent suicide from happening using a gun. And that is something that's pervasive across the country, not necessarily just here in St. Mary's County. But I think it's a worthwhile goal that we should look at achieving with this bill.
What do that's one of the things I see, like, and it's part of me feels like these are, like you guys said, it almost feels like this needed to be two separate bills, right? Like take the gun control piece and handle that separately from the suicide prevention thing. Not that they're not connected, right? I get that, right? I understand. We talked about that before the show, like, the percentage of suicides is significant, and especially with handguns. Let me throw a curveball. Let's play a game here with you guys. Not a game, it's not a game, but what do you guys think about, like, years ago when they were talking about all this gun safety and requirements? How do you feel about some of the Midwest schools that actually have, like, gun safety programs in the public school system? What's your opinion on that? I'm curious. I really am.
So, like, I actually reached out to the sheriff a few years ago, and with the intent of trying to start a program that focused on gun safety, because it's one of those things where I think part of the problem that you have in a lot of cases with gun violence, especially unintentional or suicide, is the relationship that minors actually have with weapons. So right. So you have a discomfort that's already there, and then the stigma that's attached to it on top of everything. It becomes a more dangerous situation when you're talking about kids. There's actually a program that a guy out of Philly started called Black Guns Matter. Not necessarily the greatest name, but the program has been proven to be successful in some neighborhoods in Philadelphia, and where they have positively impacted gun violence. Right? Well, positively impact, negatively, right. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. It's like, so that, and I thought that it was really interesting because along with the program, what they do is they have other de-escalation techniques that they teach some of the kids that could be useful, so things don't escalate to the point where they're considering gun violence as an action. So
Yeah, and I don't know how I really feel about a gun safety program in school. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to think on it. I think that we rely on our school system to do a lot of things, but I definitely think that gun safety in general is um, a necessary, I don't know, life experience or something. It's very necessary for people um, to be aware of how to handle a gun. And I grew up here my entire life. There was always guns in the household when I was a kid, but my parents, were very responsible about it, and they said, they're locked up in the gun safe. You don't touch them unless there's an adult around. There were parameters around that. And so, I recognize that I come from a situation where I kind of learned some of these things, but not everybody has
Right.
that, right?
Right.
So, I think the idea is worthwhile, but what is the best vehicle to do it? And if it were to be done in schools, the question for me would be: is it like part of school day curriculum, or is it
Right.
like an after school, club, so to speak, kind of thing? Where people learn about gun safety and stuff like that, or is it a program like Dare?
Mm,
Um, something like that.
I had my experience was very different than that too. I mean, much like Brandon, like I took a hunter safety course when I was younger. As soon as I was old enough to take that, and all my friends in school. I mean, like, I came from that generation. I know you guys have all heard the story. The guns were on the gun rack in the back of the pickup truck in high school.
Yeah.
Everybody's heard that, but it's true. It really is true. You know what I mean? Like I remember, I think one of my cousins got a new gun, and the teacher went out to see it in his truck in the parking lot at the school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was not really a thing for us. I mean, I know the world's changed significantly, but I just saw there was somewhere, I'm going to try and find it, but I think it was a program that they ran for gun safety. And I had a cautious skepticism of guns. You know what I mean? Like I was not, I don't want to say, well, I guess there was a healthy fear of them, right? Do you know what I mean? Like I knew what they could do, and having those classes were pretty important. None of that, I don't want to take away from this bill either, right? Like, I mean, I understand where the bill's coming from, and the safety and protecting, children particularly, right? That's what we're talking about here. But I don't know. I think that there's some, we're not thinking outside of the box enough. I don't think, you know what I mean? Like we need to really, if we want to get rid of this, we get, everything becomes so political. It's so, you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like if you're not for gun, if you got any anti-gun thing, you're in, we're not going to support you. That's not what this is about, right? Like, let's figure out like, balance, man. Like, let's get away from this extremism one way or the other. We can come up with, we're smart people. I'm not, but there's a lot of smart people around here that can figure this out. We can come up with we can figure this out. It drives
we can put it in that chat box.
Yeah, chat.
That'll come up with the legislation for us.
The chat GPT or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Like, let AI figure it out.
AI can figure it out because we can't.
Well, I will kind of jump on some of the arguments about the legislation, where they talked about how difficult it is to enforce. And I think that was one of the issues that I had with it. It was like, all right, you're talking about gun storage, so are we going to go to everybody's house and check it? It was like how, and if you're if you're in a position to actually enforce it, it's like you're probably there for another reason anyway. And so it's
too late at that point, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
And I made a comment about a lot of gun laws being racist. And I'm like, I could just see that being an issue where it disproportionately impacts African Americans, where, you have police in the home and they see an issue with the storage of a weapon. And now you have an offense that they can easily and easily start the criminal process, right? So it's like, all right, well, you violated this crime because your guns are here, or they find a bullet somewhere that one loose one, or so it could be anything.
No, you're
So
right. There's so
Yeah.
many things. A kid says, "Mom and Dad's gun is in the desk drawer." You know what I mean, or something like that. And
yeah,
next thing you know, they're raiding the house. You know what I mean? Like it's not. This is that. Again, I think there's far better ways for us to figure this out than this kind of thing, right? Like I think there's,
correct.
if the root of the problem is we can figure this out. Like, it drives me crazy. Like we're not stupid people. Let's come up with a plan and solve it for people. I don't know.
I think the emphasis on the suicide the program is the biggest issue, just because we talk about 58% of the gun violence, gun deaths from last year being connected to suicide.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, we need to make sure that kids are not trying. Well, they have other coping mechanisms before they consider suicide.
Yeah, and I think what Chris said about we're smart people, we can figure this out, I think is very valid. And I part of what just disappoints me about our politics these days in the division is that the longer that people stay in their corners and just fight over something for no reason, the longer or the more opportunity we have for people to lose their lives to gun violence.
Yeah.
And so, we're not doing anybody any favors by continuing to argue over, ridiculous things when we should be focusing on how to actually solve the problem.
Yeah, I agree with you, actually. I completely agree with Brandon.
Hey.
All right, let's end the show.
Hey, in all honesty, that was what I was going to suggest.
Yeah, I think it's funny. We could be here. We could literally do 5 recordings a day on different bills, and then by the end of the week, still not cover half of them. There's 2,000 bills out there, right? We don't. So
we're already behind, guys.
We are way behind.
We'll catch up at crossover.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right.
Well, I think we had a good episode. We're doing it, and we're keeping everybody abreast of what's going on. So make sure you guys stay informed
and stay engaged
and stay empowered.
I love it.
That's right.
See you guys next week.